Hey guys, it's your boy Valdo, and I've been on a bit of a hiatus, but I wanted to kind of show back up, show you guys what I've been working on, and where I'm at right now. So I was playing solo self-found, and I've actually been playing Freezing Pulse. But before we even get into that, I'm actually just going to run us right into a map, show you what I'm doing. Just do the shore map really quick. I've been up to like tier 11 with this build, but I've kind of questioning my defensive mechanic. So it's pretty smooth, pretty fast, a lot of cast speed, you know me, that's my thing. And ignore the spirit charges. I know that for a fact they are not optimized. I'm not even really giving a shit about them. The only reason I'm even using the helmet is because it has an enchant that gives me more projectile speed for Freezing Pulse, and I'll explain kind of what the point of that is in a bit. Just clear this up. This is a really shitty. Just gone. Beautiful. Feels so good. Yeah, this is truly the bane. Look at that. It's the worst. Can't believe that's even a thing. Okay, we'll kill the boss of said map and then we'll get back into it. Not really worried about this equation right now. Where are we? God, this fucking skill, dude. But yeah, I mean, I was playing solo self-found with a build, but I'm not anymore. The big idea behind that was I felt like this build had a lot of potential, and although it grinded me from no currency to getting in impulses in solo self-found, I don't know. These two guys, Perma freeze, sweet. So yeah, even though it carried me into some decent currency and whatnot, once I reached maps, it wasn't really feeling like it was performing very well without some of the required gear and uniques and cast speed and stuff like that. But I'll just show you the links super quick. What we're running is Freezing Pulse, Controlled Destruction, Spell Echo, and added cold damage, hypothermia, and cold penetration. Now the cold penetration slot can be changed to a lot of different things, and I'll just show you that super quick. So for example, let's say you're not using cold pen, you can use instead slower proj for a slightly more damage, and the greater multiple projectiles, or for example volley. I kind of like volley because it makes it kind of fat in a way, so that's kind of nice. No real choke point where you're standing. GMP just makes it obscene, looks fucking stupid, and without it, I mean, it doesn't even matter. It's not a big deal. And then, of course, my favorite one, Cold Pen, which is good because it's great against bosses and rares. So Cold Pen is really, in my opinion, one of the best ones. We use 2 golems, which never seem to stay alive, so they're really not a factor in the build. They're just a bonus. Besides that, we're running Herald of Thunder, Herald of Ice. And the reason behind that is because Freezing Pulse gains a 125% damage effectiveness. Is it on the jewel? It is. So the effective added damage is higher than 100%, meaning that you'll gain slightly more damage from added, say, chaos, cold damage, whatever. And so that's great for heralds in general. And we also take the Ascendant node, or the Elementalist Ascendant node, which allows us to gain increased effect of our heralds, thus increasing our DPS significantly more with the added effectiveness of Freezing Pulse, which is pretty cool. Summon Lightning Golem and Flame Golem. We take Flame Dash and faster casting just because, you know, I'm actually trying out a dual wielding thing, and I'll explain that in a bit as well. Increased duration, efficacy, and Righteous Fire for obvious reasons. Get that meaty damage whenever we need it. We're running Curse on hit, Ink Crit Strikes, Frostbite, and Orb of Storms. My usual setup just to get those curses going. Same thing with my Frost Bomb. Same exact shit. If you've watched my Cold Snap video, it's the exact same setup here for these 2 skills, just to give us that sexy more damage multiplier. Some basic other shit here. The gear is really unimportant. The only real important gear that you want to get is Pandemonious. It is excellent, especially good for bosses, and it blinds everything in front of you that you hit with, or that you chill, essentially. And with this particular skill, chilling is extremely easy. In fact, anything up close to you, like you saw in the incursion, is basically perma-freezed. I don't think there's a boss in the game so far that I haven't perma-freezed, besides, obviously, Adziri. And even then, if it's not perma-frozen, it's chilled, and up to, like, insane amounts of chill. And same thing with Desalio Sign. It gives a little bit more chance to freeze. Now, without these two uniques, you actually have really, like, 80-ish, 82% chance to freeze on hit. And we cast, like, Jesus, like 16 cast, or the cast time for this skill is like 0.16, so it's like 5 or 6 casts a second. So it's not like we're missing out on any freeze chance or anything like that. And then kind of to explain the mechanics of Freezing Pulse. So essentially, Freezing Pulse is a skill that fires a projectile that decreases in freeze chance and damage over its, well, over its range, but technically it's over its duration. So Freezing Pulse, up in front of me, it has a certain amount of damage, so it's full damage, for example. So things right in front of me just get absolutely murdered. And then things further out take less and less damage up to the end of the projectile. Now, projectile speed would do a couple of things. It would increase the effective duration of the skill shot, and then it would also increase the range at which you have your damages. So, for example, since the skill shot lives longer, a really good way to put this is Freezing Pulse's damage reduces as its lifetime I guess runs out, and its lifetime is increased by projectile speed. So with less projectile speed, which I can show you really quick, you can do something like slower podge instead, and you'll notice, see, it ends kind of at the end of the screen there. And yeah, I'll be honest, this looks way cooler than just what I was doing, but the problem is you get more damage, but your damage falls off quicker, which is not what we want. So yeah, just one other thing, and then the projectile speed I'm getting from this Light Poacher is essentially how I get so much more damage over a range. So you can snipe things, essentially off-screen things, really, with Freezing Pulse this way. And it's not something that you particularly need, because as you can see without it, it's fine, right? No big deal. In fact, you could go for the cast speed one. I want to go for the cast speed one. I guess the real issue with this particular situation is anybody that has a Freezing Pulse cast speed or damage enchant is putting it on something I either don't want to use, or they're pricing it ridiculously high, which is definitely isn't worth that much. So yeah. Besides that, though, projectile speed is great on it. Lets you snipe bosses and whatnot. Then we're gonna I'll show you kind of the weapons I'm using, because these are kind of important. In this particular build, we are using a Dark Arts. These are the best cast speed nodes in the game, as far as on this tree. As far as 4 points go, these are the best possible cast speed nodes you can get. Everything else is 3% cast speed. There just really isn't anything that really equates to how much cast speed you're getting from them. So if you're dual wielding and your skill scales heavily with damage effectiveness and cast speed, this is the way. So I guess the real downside is you have to have cast speed. I mean, dual wielding. And so I was just giving this a try to see kind of how it goes, and it feels really good. I was running these nodes, got rid of them when I started dual wielding for these. So it feels quite good. The cast speed is really high, and a lot of the fun comes really from you running into something's face, and then it gets frozen, and you just melt it. It's really fun. But I guess to explain the scepters, we just have essentially the exact same Cold Snap Scepter. And then the one making the special appearance is this guy, which is really cool. It is just more cold damage, spell damage, LA damage, chance to freeze, but it has the gain a percentage of your non-chaos damage as extra chaos damage. Which ultimately isn't like a big deal. It's not like it's crazy damage, but it is a more damage multiplier. I'll be fair, I haven't really adventured too much into what the best possible dual wielding options are for this particular skill, and I'm gonna really look a little more into that. This build is still kind of evolving for me. This is my first time running really a full-on, I guess, cast speed based build where you're cast speed, and it's it's like attack speed for melee builds is essentially what this is. And it's self-cast, and that's what I'm actually working on right now is the defensive mechanics. I was just chasing life. We get like 180 to 90% life. And I wanted to do mind over matter, but it feels bad because I cast a lot of, spells, and some bosses don't die immediately, and you do have to kind of melt them down, and you start to do this. And if there are other enemies around and they hit you once, you can't cast. And so, besides buying a Levianga Spirit, I'm looking into other ways to defend myself. But I'm not quite there yet. And then I guess besides that, I'm going to pull up my Path of Building link really quick, just to show you guys the potential damage. So, with the skill, now what I'm showing you here is like a level 91 tree. So when I get to 91, that should look something like this. Once I got all my jewel sockets and all my nice jewels here. And I actually kind of tailored this not to be busted stuff, so this is like basic cast speed, cold damage stuff. So it could be a lot better than this, but you can break 1,000,000 DPS with this particular skill, and even if you go like Shaper Guardian DPS, because we use so much penetration, it doesn't just cut our damage in half. Instead, it goes down to 760k, which in my opinion is very viable damage to kill Shaper. I guess the only problem is that I guess only for a small moment will you have the 700k DPS. You really would run out, because you only get a you may Val Righteous Fire once or twice. You really have 550k, which to me, perfectly fine. That's plenty of DPS. But like I said, guys, it could be a lot higher. You could really invest more into your damage as well, and I'm just kind of showing it with very questionable gear. These are actually just the same scepter, not even the gain 5% of whatever. And so it can be a lot better. But I'm just showing you guys a quick little template to give you an idea of how far this build can kind of push. And in my opinion, this is a really fun build. Another cool thing I did was I invested in a lot of nodes. They give you increased movement speed, just so I didn't feel really sluggish. But besides that, I would say that if you guys are looking to try a build, this one is pretty cool, but I will admit the biggest weakness of this build, and I will show that to you right now. I don't even know if I have... Alright, this is where we improvise. Let's see if we have... Let's use this guy. So, this is an obstructive object wherever you are when you're playing. When you shoot Freezing Pulse, when it comes out of your... I'll do slower podge so we can see this better. When you shoot Freezing Pulse, you'll notice that the projectiles are rather big, even if I, like, say, take off the MTX. They're pretty big, right? They're pretty wide. Well, the problem is they have, like, a certain area where they release from the character's body, and it causes this. Oh, does it not work here? Fuck. Here, wait. I'll just show you here. Okay. So, here's a good spot. So, there's a lot of places in the game where you can end up in spaces like this, where you can't cast. And you've probably seen this before, but it's horrible. Don't use slower projectiles, guys. Just throwing that out there. Or you can get obstructed. So, like, in maps with doors and shit like that, it is a fucking nightmare. You end up not able to cast at all, and the worst part is that if you're close enough, you see this? Nothing's coming out. So with most skills, you'll release the spell at least, but there are situations with the spell where you don't get your spell at all. So even if something was literally point blank in front of me, the spell wouldn't deal damage, and I would essentially be stuck in that spot, not leeching any cold damage, not doing any damage, and essentially left to die. And that has happened a couple times, and it's absolutely annoying. It is the most frustrating thing I've ran into in this game in a while, and it's really not a lot of fun. And you'll be surprised how often in a doorway this will occur. And I'm the last person to kind of complain about these types of things, because I always feel like, it's just something that you have to deal with, or you can adapt with, and which you can. One thing I was doing was when I come through doorways, I'll flame dash through the other side and just kind of turn and shoot. But at the end of the day, like, if Frostball doesn't have to do that, why do I have to do that? And it's a fucking nightmare. So, I mean, I just really hope GGG looks at that, fixes it, makes sure that that's not in a following patch or something. But man, it is infuriating at the least. Just the way that you can get so screwed over. And you guys have probably seen this too. And this is not a big deal. I can actually show this in my hideout. When you shoot off a ledge, it can like collide with the ground. And you can fix that by shooting further. But another thing that you can do is you can't shoot upstairs if you shoot the wrong spot. So like, right there. And you can shoot it, but if you click above the stairs. So it like real time collides with walls and shit. And it's a bit annoying. So it's kind of in this place where it's a lot like Lightning Strike, right? Where Lightning Strike is a fun and cool skill, but it's completely obstructed by some maps. And so I'm forced to play on maps like Shore, Estuary, where I have a better time than playing with like, I don't know, fucking Cells or Caldera. So it kind of sucks. But at the same time, if you are okay with that, if you're cool with like being a little obstructed, then it's an excellent skill and it feels really, really good to play. And I would highly recommend it. It has a lot of top end damage, but I guess one thing to put out there before I end the video, when you're leveling with this skill, it has absolutely shit early game. So for the first, like, I would say until like Act 2, at the end of Act 2, like, feels pretty good, right? Well, once you put on like, once you're going into bosses like after Act 2 and you have like LMP added cold or whatever your fucking setup is, your 4-link, it's okay, but until you get your threshold jewel and until you get a good cold damage item, your damage is like mediocre, and even then it's still shit. You need a ton of cast speed for this skill to be any good and to kill anything meaningful. And so in my opinion, it's a good skill, but like not until you get to like, I don't know, where you can get both threshold jewels, drop your LMP, whatever, volley, drop that less damage multiplier, then it starts to feel okay. Then you can start mapping with it. So like, then it feels alright, but then when you get to map bosses on a 4-link, it feels kind of shit. And I think this is definitely one of those skills where you need a 5 to 6 link, and you really need, so like I would say basically you need a tabula, you need a really good cast speed on your gear. You just need to get good cast speed on your gear, and then it's gonna feel okay. But I don't know. Like my feelings on the skill are that like it feels good, but moving into late game can be like a patchy experience, and that's fine. I don't think all skills should be perfect and should like be excellent until you reach late game. I just appreciate this skill in a way that it's like if you're willing to tag along the journey of the skill, it feels good. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. Literally get to like, I don't know, get to like Act, you know, 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever, and then just throw on your good gear and then run it, and then it's an excellent skill. I mean, I'll be honest though, throughout the entire process of leveling the character, I permafroze everything, so it trivialized a lot of single target situations, but clearing can feel kind of bad without the with good projectile speed and stuff like that. So ultimately, I would say it's a really cool skill. It just needs to be tweaked a little bit in like the, I don't know, the projectile releasing from the character. But besides that, it's a lot of fun. It has a lot of it's like a shit ton of damage, and you perma-freeze everything. It's kind of like what I wanted out of a cold skill, because more often than not, cold skills feel kind of like questionable. And so I like it a lot. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm actually going to be doing a little more on this. Probably going to take it to Guardians, maybe Shaper, maybe, I'm not sure. If I can fix this defensive mechanic thing, because right now I'm sitting at like 4K life with kind of shit gear. I want to replace this helmet, get a better ring likely, get a better belt, I don't know. And then I'll let you guys know where I'm at. But before then, you guys let me know how you feel about this. Sorry for the long break. I'm trying to break things up a bit so that I don't get too exhausted of the game. And besides that, have fun, guys. GG's.